Shalom, everyone, and happy Friday. I hope you're all doing well in this madness we call, I don't even know, whatever's going on. I hope you all are doing well and you still have hope, and we're all, going through things, but the Most High has us and He is showing up on our behalf, and this show is to prove that. And if you haven't tuned into the show before, this is Exploring the Motherland, African News with Garth. I'm your host, Garth, and the purpose of this show is to promote the message of Quest to Unite Africa, and that would be to promote critical infrastructure and economic development for the benefit of the African diaspora and the African continent as a whole. We do this through our four main strategies. That would be medicine, business, cultural engagement, and technological innovation. The purpose of this show is to show you or keep you up to date with what's going on the continent of Africa and how it relates to our mission. And basically, I'm just showing you how things are moving on our behalf, and to not give up and to focus on ways we could help our brothers and sisters. This is about creating strategic partnerships with our brothers and sisters so we could benefit for the African diaspora and the African continent, as we are soon to be coming together, as the word says, and as everything is falling into alignment. And let me not ramble, let's just get to the point. Alliance of Sahel states present unified front in negotiations with ECOWAS. And I will put all the links to the articles and videos. And the article reads, Foreign ministers from the Alliance of Sahel states met on Sunday to discuss formalities associated with their exit from the regional bloc. ECOWAS, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are due to withdraw officially from the grouping of West African states on Tuesday. So that's already passed, and they have already done that. At the gathering in Ouagadougou, that's in the Burkina Faso, the capital of Burkina Faso, which I was blessed to be in and to visit and to see, they agreed to favor a global approach to negotiations and relations with ECOWAS within the framework of the alliance. Ministers said discussions must take into account the existence of the alliance as a united actor to be able to hold talks with ECOWAS in a spirit of peaceful coexistence.
A historic meeting has just concluded in Ouagadougou. The foreign ministers of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have met to finalize their withdrawal from ECOWAS. This marks a significant turning point for the region, and we have the full story. From the reasons behind the split to the potential consequences, we're covering everything you need to know. By creating the Confederation of Sahel States, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have profoundly disrupted the balance of power and already unbalanced relations. And we are working daily towards a reconfiguration of our regional space that takes into account our aspirations and the aspirations of our populations. Our countries have created a new geopolitical reality, now built on respect for our states, respect for our sovereignty, respect for our sovereign decisions, but also the unapologetic defense of our interests. Contrary to the virtuous values observed by the Confederation of Sahel States, we are faced with an organization that has deviated from the principles and ideals that presided over its creation. Now let's dive deep into what is happening and what to expect.
Well, one of the things that I find so fascinating about this whole thing is that this isn't some sudden impulsive decision.
Right.
The seeds for this split, they've been planted, been there for a while now.
Yeah.
Stemming from, I'd say, growing frustration within these nations towards ECOWAS.
Frustration is definitely a good word for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sahel region is grappling with terrorism, insurgencies. Millions of people have been displaced.
Millions, yeah.
It's a human tragedy on a massive scale.
Right.
And the AES countries, well, they feel that ECOWAS hasn't stepped up enough to really address it.
And, that ties directly into the second point, the whole issue of sovereignty.
Yeah.
When you feel vulnerable and unsupported, you naturally crave more control over your destiny.
Yeah, you want to take the reins.
Exactly. And AES, they see ECOWAS as being too intertwined with outside powers.
Right.
Especially France, which, has a long history in the region. So they're seeking more autonomy. They want to be the ones making the decisions.
But wouldn't breaking away from a larger bloc potentially make them more vulnerable? I mean, isn't there strength in numbers?
That's a very valid point.
Right.
And it's a question a lot of analysts are asking. But the AES nations are pushing back on that idea.
Okay.
With their third argument. And it's this idea, this concept of African solutions.
Right.
It's the belief that they understand their own problems best and that they can handle them more effectively without external influence.
Right.
Potentially even better than a larger, more bureaucratic organization.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole African solutions thing a little bit.
Sure.
It's a compelling phrase, no doubt. But what does it actually mean in practice?
Right.
Like, is this a new idea?
Well, it's definitely not a new concept.
Right.
African solutions kind of taps into this long history of Pan-Africanist ideals. This vision of African nations uniting to solve their own problems without relying on those former colonial powers.
Okay, yeah.
You see echoes of it in the formation of the African Union and other regional organizations. But whether it's a viable approach in today's complex world, well,
yeah, that's the question.
That's the million-dollar question.
Million-dollar question, for sure. But to try and understand their perspective a bit better, let's look at what happened on January 26th.
Okay.
The foreign ministers of these AES countries, we've got Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré from Burkina Faso, Bakary Al-Sangari from Niger, and Abdoulaye Diop from Mali.
Right.
They held this, pretty crucial meeting in Ouagadougou to strategize their exit from ECOWAS.
To figure out the details.
And we know that Mali holds the AES presidency right now, so that gives them a leading role in all of this.
It's important to remember that these aren't just figureheads. I mean, their words really do offer a glimpse into the motivations driving this alliance.
Oh, absolutely. Abdoulaye Diop, Mali's foreign minister, he talked about a desire for real fraternity without any interference.
Right.
And real integration without manipulation. I mean, that really highlights their perception of ECOWAS, right? Yeah. That it's being too influenced by those outside forces.
For sure. And Burkina Faso's foreign minister, Karamoko Jean-Marie Traoré, he expressed hope for this, stronger sub-regional space that's truly aligned with the aspirations of their people.
Yeah.
There's this clear belief that they can represent and serve their citizens better on their own.
So we got the security concerns, we've got them wanting more autonomy, and then we've got this whole idea of African solutions.
It's quite the cocktail of motivations.
Yeah, it really is. What's fascinating is that their arguments, they seem to be resonating with some segments of the population.
It's a potent mix.
Yeah.
But how will it actually play out? That's what we'll explore next.
That's what we'll dive into next.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Before we continue, please support our effort to keep bringing these videos by donating a super thanks of any amount to the channel. Thank you.
This potential split, it could reshape the entire West African landscape.
Yeah.
It's like dropping a stone in a pond, The ripples, they spread far and wide.
Okay, so let's trace those ripples. What are some of the potential consequences here?
Okay.
Both within the region and on the international stage.
Well, for starters, I think we have to consider the possibility of this, like a domino effect.
Right.
If AES succeeds with this split, or even just, if it even appears successful, it could.
I'll stop them right there because, they're just speaking in conjecture. It's obviously successful. I'm going to show you that it's successful. They already have inspired a lot of other nations to, get on code, to realize that they could make changes that benefit their country and their citizens if they come together and take that bold leap to trust one another and create strategic partnerships that benefit them and progress their economic independence and will help expand their critical infrastructure. I know I've been reporting on the Alliance of Sahel states, but I do that to show you all that, as the title says, they're forging ahead. The Sahel Alliance is leading the charge for progress. We see progress. We see them kicking out ECOWAS. We see them creating the bloc known as Alliance of Sahel States, and we see them sparking real change. So, you could watch the rest of that video. I'm going to put this next video in the chat, and I will continue to give my 2 cents after that.
This is what the Malian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Abdoulaye Diop, had to say during their meeting with the foreign affairs ministers of Niger and Burkina Faso as they prepare towards their complete withdrawal from ECOWAS after creating their own confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. We are pleased to have held this meeting here in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, which is one of the driving forces today for the transformation of our continent and the affirmation of the sovereignty of our peoples, of their autonomy in decision-making, and especially of their ability to control their own destinies and to define the ways and means to ensure their own security, but also to promote development. Therefore, I am pleased, on behalf of the Malian presidency, to be able to participate in this AES meeting, which is taking place, as you know, almost a year after our last meeting withdrawal from ECOWAS. And since this sovereign decision of our 3 countries, which has been effective since January 28th, 2024, I repeat, our decision to withdraw from the Economic Community of West African States has been effective since January 28th, 2024. And since that date, as you know, the West African region has undergone profound geopolitical changes that have seen the emergence of the Confederation of Sahel States as a major actor for peace, security, and regional integration in our space, and which presents itself increasingly as an important interlocutor on the international scene to defend and promote the concerns of our states, the concerns of our populations. This new reconfiguration of the West African region has strengthened the special relations. I would even say the relations that are today strategic and multifaceted between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, and not only at the level of states, but these are relations between our peoples. Relations marked by fraternity, solidarity, friendship, and kinship. Relations of all kinds. But above all, we understand that our destinies are linked and that we must work to overcome our challenges together and work in solidarity with other peoples of Africa. Indeed, the creation, in Niamey on July 16, 2024, of the Confederation of Sahel States has completed the strengthening of the integration of our populations, because any integration process must begin and end with the populations who are at the beginning and who are also the purpose of all the efforts that are made to bring them peace and development. But beyond that also, as our populations, as our young people, our young children, have just told us, freedom is the beginning to allow us to live in dignity. And for that, our states must assert themselves. During our work, as for all the actions we have taken since the Confederation was established, we are therefore working to preserve the interests of the population, which remains the compass, the key, and the priority of the action of our heads of state. It is in this constructive dynamic that we have just held the present meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the Confederation of Sahel States, during which, as I indicated to you, we examined the situation at the level of our sub-region to be able to draw the necessary lessons and to be able to advise our governments and our heads of state on the actions to be taken to ensure the defense of our interests. The examination of this situation has resulted, as you know, following the presentation of the conclusions earlier, in a complete convergence between our countries, our heads of state, and our peoples on the approach to relations between ECOWAS and the Alliance of Sahel States. And here again, I repeat, you must understand that from now on, the discussions within our space must take into account the existence of the AES. That is to say, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger as a united actor to be able to have discussions with ECOWAS in a spirit of peaceful coexistence, in a spirit of responsibility. But above all, with the concern to be able to preserve the interests of the populations, the interests of all the populations. I think that is our major concern today, and in accordance with the orientations of our heads of state and government, we remain. We ministers of foreign affairs, we governments of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. We therefore remain available to engage in discussions as an AES entity with ECOWAS to be able to provide solutions to the concerns of our populations, but also to the concerns of our states. I recall that, in this context, our heads of state remain fully attached to the Pan-African ideal. But also to promoting friendship, fraternity, and solidarity between the peoples of the AES, but also between the West African peoples. But beyond that, between the African peoples, including the diaspora of our countries. It is in this context that you will recall that on December 22nd, the 14th of last December, our heads of state, the College of Heads of State of the Confederation of Sahel States, adopted an important declaration which goes in the sense of our understanding of unity, of fraternity between the peoples, and which reinforces the free movement in our countries by indicating that for us Burkina Faso, for us Mali, as for us Niger, every West African will be at home in our countries, and that we are working to be able to truly strengthen the heritage of the integration of our peoples, a heritage that began since the independence of our countries. There have been important achievements. These achievements are not achievements of a particular organization. They are achievements of our founding fathers, of those who fought for the independence of our countries, for the affirmation of our identity. I think there are important gains in our countries in terms of free movement, in terms of bringing our populations closer together, in terms of investments that have been made. So I wanted to make this declaration, to recall this important declaration which is situated in the framework of the state of mind of our leaders. I know that each of you works daily to not put barriers between our populations. In any case, today we are aware that Malians who are on the continent, in Niger or elsewhere, and even other nationals of the countries that are around us, who live in our countries, live in total harmony with each of you. Our differences are certainly at the level of the African countries. For the future, to guard his children, the Alliance of Sahel States wants the union of peoples, of the peoples. Please support our effort to scout the internet and bring forth.
All right, that was a very powerful speech. As I said before, this is what real progress looks like. You know, they're not talking You know, they're not giving people pipe dreams. They're actually taking in, you know, promising what they would do and deliver to their people, their citizens, and they understand that their sovereignty is paramount in order for them to progress. And they came together and said, hey, we all have the same problem. We have, you know, terrorism, trouble securing our borders, and we all have a common enemy. Let's, you know, come together and make a solution and stop relying on people who don't have our best interest and are, you know, have been proven to be undermining our progress. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are setting a cultural standard to end colonialism and make strategic partnerships amongst other African countries. They continue to show that Africans can unite to create initiatives that foster real change and benefit. All right, and the next article and clip: Burkina, Mali, Niger exit ECOWAS. Thousands hit streets to chair decision. This is what happens when you listen to your people. You give them hope. You give them a sense of nationalism, and you give them a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Well, sense of hope that things will get better and they're actually seeing real change happen. So of course they're going to start, you know, having solidarity and start, you know, planning for their future to see how they can make their countries better and how they can integrate further to make partnerships that will benefit them economically and further pursue their sovereignty. And the article reads, in the departure of these three founding members from the bloc has fractured the region and is leaving the ECOWAS group with an uncertain future. Well, it's not an uncertain future because you have to understand this is a French article, so you could read in between the lines. There's nothing uncertain. These people are going to thrive and overcome now that they have, you know, came together and started a bloc that is more effective than ECOWAS. So I'm going to put the article in the chat and you can read in between the lines. Trust me, they are literally, you know, actively trying to put a spin on it so it favors the West, and also they're trying to, you know, hide this progression, but it's too late. It is too late. It's over. Change has come, and it's going to continue to get better for our people. As they decline, we rise.
Thousands of people gathered on Tuesday to celebrate Burkina Faso's withdrawal from ECOWAS in Ouagadougou and across the country. The official launching of the Alliance of Sahel States in Ouagadougou was marked by a meeting attended by the country's Prime Minister. In Burkina Faso, people are mobilizing everywhere to show their commitment, their determination, and their attachment to the three presidents of the AES, who have fought day and night for the well-being of these peoples. With a chorus of vuvuzelas, whistles, and placards reading "Down with ECOWAS, down with France, long live AES," the demonstrators came to celebrate the departure of the AES states from ECOWAS. We're open to everyone, but to say we're going to return to ECOWAS to lead a march, they should really think again, because we really have decided, and we're proud of this decision, and we're going to pursue it to the end. In addition to the demonstrations throughout the country, a ceremony to raise the colours of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger was organised at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Regional Cooperation, and Burkinabe Abroad.
L'objectif, c'était de nous affaiblir, de nous faire peur. Mais partout où ils ont tenté, ils ont
The aim was to weaken and frighten us, but everywhere they tried, they suffered a crushing defeat. ECOWAS is one of the strings of our enslavement, which was cut short on January the 28th, 2024. We know there are other strings left, but our three heads of state are still holding the rope tightly, which is to say that all the strings will be cut with no qualms.
C'est pour dire que toutes les cordes seront tranchées sans état d'âme.
On January the 28th, 2024, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger announced their definitive departure from ECOWAS.
Moving on to West Africa now, where three junta-led states have formally exited the Economic Community of West African States, or the ECOWAS regional bloc. Thousands hit the streets in Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali to back their junta regime's withdrawal from the West African bloc. In Niger, marches led by military regime members were held in the capital of Niamey. Hundreds chanted slogans against French President Emmanuel Macron.
We have understood that this ECOWAS, which was created as a people's ECOWAS, and no longer serves the people. It serves a master outside ECOWAS, that is imperialism. We marched blindly, and they stepped aside, continuing to serve imperialism. Today, we have understood that only struggle brings liberation.
In Burkina Faso, the country's prime minister and thousands of other citizens gathered in the capital of Ouagadougou's Nation Square.
AES has only existed for a short time, but the free movement of people and goods is already a reality. We know that if we continue to support our three leaders, all African countries will join ES because we will truly be able to liberate Africa.
In Mali, crowds rallied at Kanfuga, which is a symbolic area near the capital of Bamako.
A single Burkinabe with a weapon can do what is necessary. We have confidence in ourselves. Moreover, we have acquired heavy and light equipment, combat aircraft, and warplanes to defend this country. So we do not even need to seek assistance from a neighboring country or a former colonizer.
The three countries together have now teamed up to form a separate bloc called the Alliance of Sahel States, or the AES. The trio have also released a common passport. Their junta leaders have announced the creation of a 5,000-member unified army to fight jihadism that has plagued the region for years. Now, they see France, which has a high influence on the region, as a common enemy and favor partnerships with countries like Russia, Turkey, and Iran. Russian flags were also a part of these support rallies in all of these nations. Now, the military junta states had sought an immediate withdrawal from ECOWAS in January of last year, alleging its excessive dependence on France and the West.
The three countries will officially cease to be members of ECOWAS from 29 January 2025. The authority decides to set the period from 29 January 2025 to 29 July 2025 as a transitional period, and to keep ECOWAS doors open to the three countries during the transition period.
However, ECOWAS required 1 year's notice for their departure to be effective. And now the departure of these three founding members from the 50-year-old bloc has left West Africa more fractured than ever.
We're calling
The AES has instilled hope in their citizens again, and now they have something to celebrate. Furthermore, this is what successful cultural engagement looks like. The citizens now see a future of promise economically and have a sense of nationalism. This sets a new standard that other African nations must follow in order to take the chains of imperialism off. Okay, and this article reads, France accused of using old Greek tactics to ambush Niger. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny how, you know, the French and ECOWAS have been pretending that they've been, you know, trying to help the problem of terrorism while at the same time funding it. It's kind of funny. It's like they always use the same tactics as before. And now we realize why they have left the bloc and why they've created initiatives such as the 5,000 soldier unit to help fight, you know, jihadism and secure their borders. They've understood that they've been actively, you know, been under attack from within, with these people who are pretending to, you know, do business with them for their benefit, while this is just a way to keep power and to basically stop the region from progressing. And let me read the article. France is using underhanded methods to attempt to destabilize Niger, the West African nation's Minister of the Interior, Public Security and Territorial Administration General Mohamed Tamba has alleged. Tamba accused the former colonial power of allying with Niger's neighbors to undermine the country, which has been plagued by a deadly jihadist insurgency for years. We must be doubly vigilant to contain the situation, he warned, claiming that France uses Trojan horses. On Tuesday, the Nigerian Defense Minister Salufo Made announced that Bamako, Niamey, and Ouagadougou, those are all the three capitals of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, were preparing to deploy a united force of 5,000 troops to conflict zones in the Sahel region.
And now let us turn our attention to the growing anti-West sentiment in West Africa. France is facing new allegations from its former colony, Niger. The junta-led authorities in Niger have accused France of using the old Greek tactics of the Trojan horse to destabilize the country. Now, Niger's Minister for Interior, Public Security and Territorial Administration has allegedly noted that France was partnering with Niger's neighbors to disrupt and undermine the West African country. He said that Niger must be doubly vigilant to contain the situation. The minister further suggested that the military cooperation with France ended up creating desolation in the West African country, and added that the French forces behaved without consequence and had failed to provide security in the country. Now, the military junta chief of Niger now says these latest accusations come at a time when relations between Niger and France have been at their lowest in recent months. Last month, Niger's transitional leader, Abdurrahman Tishani, has accused Paris of aiming to cause instability in the landlocked country and the Sahel region by funding terrorist groups in neighboring Nigeria and Benin. However, Nigeria denied the accusations of colluding with France to destabilize Niger. Diplomatic ties between France and Niger have nosedived ever since the military took power in Niamey in July of 2023. The coup sparked widespread anti-French protests across Niger. The former French colony followed the lead of its allies, Burkina Faso and Mali, and even broke off defense ties with Paris, forging closer ties with Moscow for military support. The juntas have accused France of meddling in international affairs and have also accused it of failing to put an end to the decade-long militant violence in the Sahel region. Now, this has forced France to withdraw all of its troops from West Africa, including Niger, which has been plagued by jihadist insurgency for years. France also closed its embassy in Niger indefinitely as tensions between the two countries escalated. Reports suggest that Niger has gone as far as embarking on changing the narratives of its colonial relations with France. The West African country has also taken down several colonial names on its streets, monuments, and squares for more patriotic ones. France has been facing similar setbacks in other parts of Africa too. Around 70% of the continent has already kicked Paris out, with its troops present now only in Djibouti and Gabon. In addition to Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, Chad, Senegal, and the Ivory Coast have also joined the France out chorus, while Paris has also faced troubled relations with Algeria over its support for Morocco's claim in the Western Sahara dispute. So, as Niger levels fresh accusations against Paris and Africa turns its back on the West, is France's influence nearing its end in the region?
I think it is. Bonjour. No, that's hello. Au revoir. There you go. That means goodbye, right? Goodbye. Au revoir. French influence and colonialism and Western colonialism. This further supports Niger and the other Sahel nations to leave ECOWAS. They understand that in order to progress economically, their borders must be secured. As a result, they made the AES added this problem to address this problem and to continue to make progress with initiatives such as this 5,000 troop soldier pact to help strengthen their security. In addition, they used their own military intelligence and resources to find out that France has been undermining their sovereignty and funding the very opposition they said they would stop. Wow. Shame on them. But they've been found out, and now Africa is rising as they are declining. And just to drive the point further home, this is the Mali's ex-prime minister exposes France and ECOWAS and hid an agenda towards the AES.
Now, to return to ECOWAS, it is that every time there were ECOWAS summits, it is the French president, it is the French media who practically announced the conclusions. So we understood that finally, ECOWAS has left its vocation as an economic and financial organization to become a political organization manipulated by extra African powers. ECOWAS. It was an idea born in Mali, a vision of unity and economic cooperation among West African nations. But something went terribly wrong. From its inception, designed to liberate Africa from the vestiges of colonialism, it has become a tool for foreign influence. This is the story of a betrayal, a struggle for sovereignty, and the rise of a new alliance. In this powerful speech, the former Prime Minister of Mali, Dr. Choguel Kokala Maiga, didn't leave any stone unturned. Your blood will boil as you listen to him uncover all the evil and hidden tactics of France and ECOWAS. This is one of the reasons why the change we see is highly needed. This is uplifting Africa. You know, regarding the issue of countries leaving ECOWAS, it's necessary to make some reminders to provide some context so people understand. Currently, the majority of Malians, at least members of the AES countries, agree with Pan-Africanism. There are some who disagree. I think we need to provide explanations to them as well. Among them, some disagree because they don't understand. There are others, of course, who are playing politics, engaged in a game that is contrary to the interests of our country. That's their right too. I think everyone should be allowed to express themselves and debate with ideas. Specifically regarding the case of ECOWAS, you know that the birth of ECOWAS, the idea germinated in the Republic of Mali. When the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Yakubu Gowon, made a visit to the Republic of Mali. It was after these exchanges with President Moussa Traoré that they felt that the barriers between West African countries, linguistic barriers, borders, all that was decided by the colonizer. So, a way must be found for Africans to develop economic relations among themselves beyond these political considerations or ideological differences. This idea was shared with other heads of state who were mostly military. In Niger, it was Seyni Kounché. In present-day Burkina Faso, it was under Saye Zerbo and other heads of state. So the military lobbied African heads of state, and when the majority shared this idea, they decided to found ECOWAS in Togo. It was President Gnassingbé Eyadema who presided over the founding session of ECOWAS. So, Mali is ill-placed to break a union that it helped create. But what is it about? It's that from the 1990s, in the wake of what is called democratization, I've explained several times to Africans that this question of democracy was imposed on Africa like a straitjacket that they came to put on us. This is why you will have noticed that all the French-speaking countries in which political regimes were changed after this La Baule conference on democratization, in all these countries without exception, we witnessed the destruction of the army, the dismantling of education systems, civil wars, and repeated coups d'etat. Congo, Rwanda, Burundi.
And as that gentleman is speaking about the Congo, that a lot of stuff is going on there. I didn't report on it, but I would advise you and implore you to check out what's going on in the Congo as well.
Chad, Algeria, Mali, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast. There is no exception. The only countries where there is a semblance of stability are the countries where they could not change the political regime. So, it was not a question of democracy, but they worked on people's mentalities to the point that they make us swallow what they want. So, from the 1990s, they managed to get ECOWAS to accept the idea that they are now doing politics. When a political regime changes, sanctions must be taken following what they call unconstitutional means. Sanctions must be taken against this country. But even in these sanctions, there was no question of an embargo. It was never provided for in the ECOWAS texts. Despite everything, what did we see in 2021? ECOWAS went from violation to violation. First, when there was the change of regime on August 18th, 2020 in Mali, do you know that it is not the Conference of Heads of State of ECOWAS that can sanction a country? But it is the President of the Commission, a civil servant, who decides to sanction a sovereign state, which is Mali after the change of regime of August 18th, 2020. But that was not enough for them. When there was, we made the rectification. When France decided to bring us to our knees, ECOWAS was put right in the middle of it to play the game. The ECOWAS representative here began to approach certain political leaders, the political class, to push them to refuse any agreement with the transitional government. We followed him. When we had all the elements, we asked ECOWAS to change the representative because he was engaging in activities incompatible with his official mission. They stalled for a month in the hope of overthrowing the regime, making politicians believe that there should be no agreement, because if the Malians agree, ECOWAS would be ill-founded to take sanctions. When we saw their bad faith, we sent him back. He was declared persona non grata. There are ambassadors who were upset, who even came to my house. There is an ambassador who came to act as a lawyer for him. To this ambassador, I told him that this ECOWAS representative is engaged in activities incompatible with his official mission, and he is not alone. I warned this ambassador. Afterwards, I gave instructions to the necessary ministers to summon him and warn him. He was sent back. Afterwards, you all know it, because he began with his head of state to interfere blatantly in our internal affairs. Now, to return to ECOWAS, it is that every time there were ECOWAS summits, it is the French president, it is the French media who practically announced the conclusions. So, when these sanctions were to be taken, the illegal and illegitimate sanctions against the Malian people, they were announced well in advance. And when they were held, you saw the Malians' reaction on January 14th, 2022. Which is now called the National Day of Recovered Sovereignty. The Malians said no, and what did we see? ECOWAS began to violate its own rules. Before we continue, please support our effort to keep bringing these videos by donating a super thanks of any amount to the channel. Thank you. First, when they took the embargo, as it is illegal and illegitimate, they rushed to manipulate and have it endorsed by the African Union. France intervened to have it adopted by the European Union. But when they went to the UN, twice, Russia and China vetoed because it is illegal. Because for landlocked countries like Mali, there is no ECOWAS text that authorizes this embargo. First, the ECOWAS text, the regulations and the statutes of the central bank prohibit this financial embargo that they made against our country. Read me the same thing elsewhere. We hired lawyers at the UEMOA Court of Justice. Mali won its case, but the heads of state refused to apply it. Well, you want to make the law in a country, you violate your own laws. Secondly, there is what is called the United Nations Convention on Landlocked Countries that Mali ratified in 1987, which formally prohibits an embargo against a landlocked country. So, violations upon violations. Their objective was to enter into a system of power relations to overthrow the Malian government. So we understood that finally, ECOWAS has left its vocation as an economic and financial organization to become a political organization manipulated by extra African powers. We made the necessary warnings. They did not understand. They took these embargoes against Mali. They went all the way to the United Nations, holding an ECOWAS summit at the United Nations, violation upon violation. The embargo on Mali could not succeed. Burkina held firm. Now, the case of Niger, it is the case of Niger which is extraordinary. They took against Niger the hardest, illegal, illegitimate, inhuman embargo. Children were dying in hospitals. People were dying of hunger. But what made us take the leap? Because it is very important that Africans understand this. In Mali, terrorism lasted for years. They created a force they called the G5 Sahel. All this was created and manipulated by France. ECOWAS asked for 4 years, $400 million to operate the G5 Sahel. They said there is no money, and suddenly against Niger, ECOWAS finds $3 billion mobilized in a short time to finance the activities of the standby force, which standby force had been dormant since 2012. This standby force was created in April 2012 at the investiture of the President of Senegal in April 2012. And since then, it has been waiting. It is sleeping. But it decided to wake up in 2023 against Niger. The activities continued, the approaches. We called, we made all sorts of interventions. But the reality is that at the ECOWAS level, the ECOWAS heads of state have turned into clerks to whom the French president gave instructions. Can you imagine that within ECOWAS, even part of the contributions are paid by the European Union? In the ECOWAS offices, there are offices for officers representing the European Union. Even the officers who represent the ECOWAS countries.
All right, I mean, that's a very long video, family, but you see this gentleman, he knows the inner workings, and he's giving you all the receipts and further giving credence to what ECOWAS has been doing for so many years and how they've been using their political influence to stop and undermine the progression of the people of the Sahel nation. So they smartened up and they got out of there. And this is what progress looks like. And this is, I hope everyone's encouraged, because literally this is going to continue. This is going to spread like a wildfire. The chains are off. Imperialism and colonialism is done. And our African brothers and sisters now are coming together and leading the charge ahead for progress, specifically the Sahel Alliance of States. The last article Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, now allied under military-led administrations, have announced that the introduction of a common passport of the Confederation of Sahel States. This new document will come into effect on January 29th, making 1 year since their official withdrawal from the regional bloc. The AES has made significant progress with just 1 year of leaving ECOWAS. The implementation of these passports just further proves that ECOWAS was just there to impede their progress instead of supporting them. As a result, they came together to help each other achieve common goals, such as securing their borders and seeking greater sovereignty. Furthermore, the passports give their citizens a sense of security, nationalism, and also these passports facilitate travel and strengthen diplomatic relations between nations. A well-structured passport system can enhance terrorism by making it easier for visitors to enter the country. Passports enable governments to maintain control of their borders. A strong passport often reflects a country's global standing and relationship with other nations. It allows citizens greater access to various markets around the world. Holding a passport entails certain civic responsibilities like adhering to laws while abroad or participating in national duties such as voting. And I will put the link to the article, and I will put the link to these videos.
Fellas, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger finally announced a common passport. Congratulations! Yes! Clap your hand, clap your hand. Yes, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger have now a common passport. I'm very happy for them. Who believes South Africa, Nigeria, and Zimbabwe should have a common passport? Huh? Okay. Bad. That's a bad joke. I'm sorry. I'm just joking. That's a bad joke. Anyway, that's going to take a long time. Anyway, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have done it again, fellas. They have announced publicly a common passport they're going to be using.
Parlant de ce passeport, vous allez constater que désormais, sur la première page de couverture, ce sont les armoiries du Mali en lieu et place du logo CEDEAO. Et tout en haut, vous allez remarquer que c'est bel et bien écrit Confédération des États du Sahel, AES. Et en dessous, il y a le nom du pays émetteur, République du Mali. Et en bas des armoiries, nous avons la nature du passeport. Et sur la dernière page de la couverture, la page arrière de la couverture, vous allez voir de façon bien distincte le logo de l'AES.
And it's a biometric passport, so it's one of the highest level technologically available for a passport. And they are showing very clearly, the message is very clear. We are not playing. You know, fellas, many Africans, unfortunately, when they say, I'm going to do this, they don't do it. I'm going to be independent. I'm not going to trade with you anymore. They don't do it. If you cross that line, I'm going to break your leg. They won't break it after you cross the line. Unfortunately, that's the reality of many Africans. That's why they take you for like a little, there's no respect for such person. Well, these people have shown it very clearly. They were part of ECOWAS. This is ECOWAS. Okay. This is Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. See the map? Great stuff. This is ECOWAS. These are West African nations that come together economically and now politically and a little bit militarily. They're supposed to be like a block, like helping each other, brotherhood type of stuff. But unfortunately, they haven't been doing it. Now, these three countries say we don't want anything to do with you anymore because you, ECOWAS, are actually sponsored by our oppressors and we want to break away from the oppressors.
Leurs Excellences, le capitaine Ibrahim Traoré, le colonel Assimi Goïta et le général de brigade Abdourahmane Tiani décident en toute souveraineté du retrait sans délai du Burkina Faso, du Mali et du Niger de la communauté économique des États de l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
The ECOWAS guys didn't like it that these three countries want to actually really break away from the oppressors. How did they want to break away? They removed the puppets. Which puppets? The presidents used to be puppets. How did puppets become president? Because many people believe that France used to put puppets in many African states, French-speaking states, so they can continue to run these countries politically and economically. Now, these soldiers say, okay, politicians are destroying Africa. We are taking over because we have the discipline. We don't need the money. We need our people to be happy. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali took over the government, but they didn't unalive the president. That's a good thing. They just took over the government. Now they say they're going to run things their own way. Now ECOWAS got very angry. Why did they do that? Why did they get angry? They got angry because they felt like if they did not react to this, it will be an incentive to their own people in their own country to try to topple them. So they're scared. So if we look at these countries and we don't react, our own people will topple us. So let's go do something about it. Now they came together. The Nigerian president, Tinubu, was one of the leaders saying, let's go destroy Niger.
We will not allow coup after coup. West Africa's president.
You know, maybe that's one of the reasons why South Africans don't like Nigerians, because they're always trying to destroy something good happening. I mean, not all Nigerians, but the president. But anyway, let's get my contract. After saying, let's go topple the newer guys in Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali say, if you dare do that, it's going to be a declaration of war against us.
Toute intervention militaire contre le Niger s'assimilerait à une déclaration de guerre contre le Burkina Faso et le Mali.
That's why I said to you, there are only three brothers in Africa. I'm sorry, you talk about brother, not my brother. I'm not your brother. These are brothers, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Africans love calling each other my brother, but you are the very same people that destroy your brother. You are the very same people that put a knife on your brother's back. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger are the only brothers right now. ECOWAS say you have no right. You are part of ECOWAS. You still under our jurisdiction. They say we are not under your jurisdiction anymore. We're done. Actually, we're leaving. And they say we're giving you 1 year to decide so you can leave. Now, it's been 1 year. On the 29th, it's going to be 1 year, okay, of January. The three African nations are now allies under a confederation of Sahel. They broke away from ECOWAS after accusing ECOWAS of kowtowing to power colonial France and failing to support. Now, these countries have had many instances of terrorist attack. And during that time, ECOWAS did not react. They never brought army or anything like that to go and fight against terrorists. But when Niger tried to free itself, they say, let's bring military together and go and fight. I mean, hold on a second. We are fighting terrorists for many, many years. You've never once said we can send our soldiers to go and fight for you. But now that we're toppling our president, you are ready to engage logistics, finances, resources to go and fight us because we toppled our president?
ECOWAS is not going to tell the coup plotted when and where we are going to strike.
No, we don't want anything to do with you anymore. Now, IAS president, right now, it's Assimi Goïta. This is Assimi Goïta. He's actually the president of Mali. but they're going to be rotating because there are 3 countries. Now he's like the president of all of them. After some time, another one will be president. They're going to be rotating. He made an announcement stating that the IAS passport would start circulating by the end of January, but the existing ECOWAS passport will still be valid until they expire.
À compter du 29, comme le dit le communiqué du président de la Confédération, ce passeport sera mis en circulation. Et la mise en circulation de ce passeport AES ne joue pas autrement sur les passeports déjà en cours de circulation. Ces passeports restent valables jusqu'à leur date d'expiration.
Okay, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger still have ECOWAS passport. I mean, ECOWAS have, people use ECOWAS passport. It allows people from all these places to move from one country to the other with no visa. After these 3 countries say we don't want anymore, we're going away, ECOWAS say, now you mean your people are going to need visas to come to our countries? They say, okay, no problem. If our people will need visas to come to your country, but your people will not need visa to come to our country. That's how open we are. The AES Confederation has also announced it will start replacing ECOWAS passport that citizen and bloc currently process with new AES passports, and it is yet unclear if beyond the transition day, citizens of AES visiting any member country of ECOWAS will need visa. You know, ECOWAS are very bitter. They will just say, okay, you're going to need visa. We need to show you that what you've done is wrong. We don't agree with you. You know, many African people, unfortunately, I'm going to be honest with you, they love you provided that you agree with them. As soon as you say something they don't agree with, they will forget every good thing you've said in the past. I don't know if you've experienced this. That's what happens in the continent of Africa. People will love you when you say things like them. But if you start thinking, you say, I like the color red, you like the color blue. Can we live together whilst I like my color red and you like your color blue? They don't like that. They will want to see you fail. They will want to see you in a car accident just because you refuse to like the color blue. So they can say, oh, yes, I told them blue was the right color, but he never listened to me. They will rather have that than say, oh, I'm actually sorry. I think I misunderstood you. You were right. I was wrong. Now, this is exactly what we expect from ECOWAS. They're going to try to make life very difficult for people from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, forgetting that those people did not choose anything. They don't do politics. It's not for them to make choices, but they will make things very difficult. Let me remind you why I'm saying this. Because back in time when Mali extracted itself from ECOWAS, when Mali said we don't want to be part of you anymore, ECOWAS closed the border against Mali. They refused to allow any import or export, no food, no medicine, nothing to go into Mali. The goal was simple. Let's asphyxiate Mali. Let's make them suffer, live in anger, and the population will stand up against the government. But they failed, because the Malian people supported their government. Let me know how you feel about this, fellas. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger now sharing your passport. Brand new passports. They're coming away from ECOWAS. They don't want to do anything to do with all these guys that are fake brothers. Is this something you support? God bless.
Have you ever considered what a passport could represent more than just a tool for travel, serving as a powerful symbol of sovereignty, identity, and alliances? For Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, a seemingly simple redesign of their passport signifies a transformative shift in their geopolitical stance. These 3 Sahelian nations, now unified under the Alliance of Sahel states, are preparing to launch biometric passports by January 29, 2025. This move not only introduces a technological advancement, but also marks a definitive break from the economic community of West African states as they forge a new regional identity. In a bold move, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are set to introduce new biometric passports under the banner of the Alliance of Sahel States. This initiative marks a significant departure from the economic community of West African states, reflecting deeper political and security realignment in the region. The AES biometric passports, featuring the Alliance's insignia in place of the ECOWAS logo, symbolize the trio's independence from the 15-member bloc. These new passports aim to harmonize travel documentation by providing standardized identification across the AES region, simplify cross-border movement, and enhance global mobility with biometric technology that improves international recognition and security. Additionally, the shared branding strengthens regional ties and reflects the collective aspirations of the Alliance of Sahel States. While current ECOWAS passports remain valid until their expiration, citizens will gradually transition to the AES versions, completing the shift to this unified system. The decision to break away from ECOWAS was a pivotal moment for Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, following a period of intense political upheaval marked by military coups that installed junta-led governments in all three nations. Frustrated by ECOWAS's response to these governance changes and its perceived inability to address pressing regional issues, the three nations united to form the Alliance of Sahel States in September 2024. This new alliance represents a deliberate shift from ECOWAS's democratic framework, instead focusing on autonomy and shared security priorities tailored to the Sahel region. Key factors drove this realignment. Security challenges posed by extremist groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS have plagued the Sahel for over a decade, causing widespread instability and threatening nearby coastal states. By banding together, the AES countries aim to centralize military coordination, an area where they felt ECOWAS fell short. Economically, dissatisfaction with the CFA franc, a currency tied to France, fueled calls for greater self-reliance. The AES is exploring plans for a common central bank and currency to reduce dependency on external powers and bolster regional independence. Biometric passports are more than a functional tool. They are a statement of sovereignty. For AES countries, issuing their own passport symbolizes their rejection of external influence and their commitment to a new regional identity. It also signals their intent to take control of their mobility, both within their borders and on the global stage. ECOWAS has raised serious concerns about the potential fallout from the withdrawal of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The bloc warns that this fragmentation could have significant implications for regional integration. ECOWAS's common market and agreement on free movement currently benefit over 400 million people across its 15 member states. The departure of these three nations threatens to disrupt this system, creating barriers to trade and mobility that could negatively impact the economic and social fabric of the region. Moreover, ECOWAS views the Alliance of Sahel States as a potential source of division within West Africa. The bloc fears that the formation of a new regional grouping could lead to further fragmentation, undermining the unity that ECOWAS has worked to maintain over its nearly 5-decade existence. Such divisions, ECOWAS argues, could exacerbate existing instability in a region already grappling with extremist insurgencies and economic challenges. Despite these warnings, the AES nations have remained resolute in their decision. For Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, their priority lies in ensuring their security and asserting their sovereignty. They believe that the AES framework offers a more effective platform to address their unique challenges, even if it means stepping away from ECOWAS's established systems. The biometric passports mark just the beginning of a broader vision for the Alliance of Sahel States, which is making significant strides towards regional transformation. Key initiatives include the establishment of a 5,000-troop joint military force to combat insurgencies and enhance regional security.
All right. That's all I have, family. As you can see, Exploring the Motherland, episode 28, Forging Ahead. Sahel Alliance is leading the charge for progress. I hope this encourages everyone. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your Shabbat and Shabbat Shalom. I am out.